Hi everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and I hope you're having an awesome day whatever you're getting up to. Today we are going to be carrying on with the Christmas theme, and we will be making these two trees. I got them from Temu. I basically got them because I want to put a Christmas setting together, and I thought, let's make these, let's see how they look once they're made, once I get them colored up a little bit. I will be using Mix2Mold for these. I'm really hoping that this video is shorter than the last one. I really don't like having videos that are as long as some of these have been. However, sometimes you just can't avoid it. This one should be shorter. Before I even get going on what we're doing here, or continuing on with what we're doing here, I did not show you this piece in my last video. It was under the UV lamp, curing up. I totally forgot about it. I went, oh, right, didn't show that to them, did I? You'll notice that this is now turquoise in color. I used one of the Light Wishes UV resins to fill in the back of this. And this is one of the colors I absolutely love. I think it's a beautiful color, and I think you could do so much with it. I also went over it with one of the chrome markers, the silver. It shows it up pretty good. I'm wondering if one of the other colors might have been a bit better, like if the gold might have done a nicer job. Anyway, I thought I would just show that to you because you might have been going with that video. What happened to the house, Natalie? That's what happened to the house. I totally forgot about it until after the video was done, and I was not adding any more to that video. Nope, wasn't doing it. So there we have it. You can maybe still see the shine on that from the interference violet, which is kind of nice with the turquoise. It actually is a nice combination. So we will take that. That's that done now. Okay, one of my viewers had commented about measuring to know how much resin to use and whatnot. We've talked a little bit about that before. This viewer had indicated to put the piece on a scale, get it back to 0, and then add water to it. I did that for this one. We're going to be using about 45 mils for the two pieces. And I have this mold, which, can you see how well I didn't get the glitter out of there? I didn't do too badly, but there's still lots of glitter in there. So if there's any left over, it's going in that piece, and maybe it'll pick up the glitter that's left behind. I measured, it was about 22 mils of water in the tree. I've got about 45 mils of the Mix2Mold, and we have, what did I measure out? About 13 mils of water for this, and I'm going to be putting in some green pigment. I don't really need these to be, super green or anything, because I'm going to be using my Pebeo to add color to this, because I want the tree to be dimensional in that it's not just one solid color. Anyway, we'll be dealing with that in this video as well. Anyway, the one thing, sort of getting back to the measuring, that I have found anyways, is that the different products have different density to them. I look at it that the Mix2Mold and polyurethane, resin, two-part epoxy, they all seem to have different density. And I appreciate the comment, and this is how they've been measuring it out. And if that works all the time with them for resin, that's perfect. I think that's a beautiful, great thing for you. I've always found that the measurements always aren't the same, and I look at that's the density of the product. So here we're dealing with something that's less dense than the two-part epoxy. And the polyurethane even has its own density, so I find that I may be able to come close on that, but I've never been able to hit it dead on. And I won't do everything with using water as a measurement. Now, some other people have mentioned using rice in the pieces, how much rice, and doing it. So I think it's just a matter of finding out what works best for you. I don't like guessing, but we know I've done that a few times. So I just wanted to mention that viewer because I did appreciate their comment and what I have found for myself personally. And if it works for them every time, then that is awesome. I think, congratulations, that's great that you get it to work. Let's get this mixed up. Let's get it poured. And before we do that, the inside of this isn't too bad. So I'm really hoping that when I take this out, it's not going to be a big deal as far as, not being able to, I think these pieces should come out really well within an hour. And I will let them sit for an hour. I won't take them out any earlier than that. So I've shook up my pigment green. I've got my slappy table here because I usually forget it. So we'll be using that so I can slap these around, just because of the fact that we do have so many different divots in this. I have extra water, as I always do if I need it. Let me get this mixed in as best I can. I should really have my other stir for these, because I do find it works a little bit better. The stir stick is great, but we don't always get what's on the bottom of the cup. I hope you found the last video helpful to give you some more insights to UV resin, what to do and what not to do. I like being able to test things out so that I know for myself, you know, what I should and shouldn't do. Now, I don't always remember that, but I do my bestest to remember. I hate to blame it on my age. Okay, we put 8 drops in there. I think that should be sufficient enough. Like I say, we're going to do some other coloring with it. And I thought, I'm just going to use the Mix2Mold colorant in this versus using somebody else's brand. Keep this a Mix2Mold piece for sure. Okay, so let's get this poured. So we're going to have a mint colored tree, but we'll fix that up. We won't leave it mint colored. Right, let it sort of get settled down in there a little bit. Hopefully I have enough, because I don't like having to, I don't know, I might be close. I'm almost wondering if I'm not going to have really as much as I think I needed. Let's get this in here. Get it up to the very tippy top. I may not have enough of this, you know. But we'll shake it around. I'm not going to add any more to this. I don't like doing that with this stuff. So I almost wonder if I would have been better off with 50. Because this one's not quite filled up. Let's get this in as many spots as we can. We'll spin it around. Lots of air bubbles in this. I think those are air bubbles anyway. And if they're not air bubbles, then I have no idea what these black things are coming up. Huh. They're not air bubbles. I don't know what those are. I don't know what those are. I don't know if we're in or because of the pigment. Kind of annoying, isn't it? Maybe it is. It might be from the pigment, you know that? Because I haven't used this in a while. I'd like to get that. Let's get that. Putting it on. I think, you know, actually it's from my pigment bottle. So if you can see on the bottom, I've got some stuck in here. Huh. That appears to be from my pigment bottle, not from the mold. Because the mold looked totally clean to me. It's pigments. Well, there you go. Alrighty then. We will let this sit. I am going to make up some more Mix2Mold to see if I can't get the glitter that's in the bottom of this thing out. I did my best with my tape, but apparently I need to do a little bit more work with that. Anyway, when these are ready to come out, we will come back. We'll see how they look. We'll see if, you know, hopefully they've caught enough of the design in them. And we'll carry on decorating them from there. See you in a bit. It is time to take these pieces out. I did go look at my Pebeos to see what I wanted to potentially use, and I came back with 4 different colors. We're not going to, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take these out. I obviously need to let these sit for, you know, pretty much a day to set up. Then what I'm looking at doing is putting a sealer on these before I put the Pebeos on it. I'm concerned that the potential is there that it will just soak into it and it won't sort of give the coloring that I want it to do. The colors that I've brought over with me are, there's a brown, make sure I'm in, there's a brown, and I thought for the stem here at the bottom. I have my green apple, which is a transparent color. I have dark green, and I have emerald. And these are kind of the colors I'm thinking of. And the other thing I might do too is I've got some alcohol pens that might be helpful in doing this. But again, I see wanting to have a sealer on these before we start throwing some color on. To me, they're sort of likened to alcohol inks that I just don't want them soaking in, because then I can't move them around. They won't have the fluidity that I want them to have. So let's carefully, they've been sitting for an hour now. Let's just carefully take these out, because I don't want to break anything. And we'll see the detail and whatnot on them. Of course, being very careful and gingerly with them. It's one of those things you just don't want it to break. Okay. It's like gingerly and then, you know, really gingerly. And tip is, if you're going to use these for resin, you want to make sure that you clean these out really well. I know this is a matte finish, which is fine, but if you don't clean these out before you put resin in them, then you're going to get the residue of the Mix2Mold or the ceramic resin, whatever product you're using, on your resin piece. I've had that happen to me. So here's our tree. I love the detail on this, and hopefully you're seeing that really well. It's a nice color. It's a good base color for us to start with. So we'll put that one down. I'll get my cookie sheet, not my cookie sheet, the thing you put cookies on after they've come out of the oven, the rack. Trying to think, what's that word? You must love listening to me try and come up with words. I really do know a lot. I do know a lot of words, but I can't always think of what they are when I'm on video. All right. Okay. All right. So there's the second one. Now the second one has a little bit of white, and I don't know if you can see it right there or not. But all in all, like, I'm really impressed with how well it's pulled up the pattern on it. That looks really cool. And the colors, like, it's a great color to start with. Yes, I could have put in a darker color. I could have, you know, played around a little bit more with the coloring. But I'm okay with that. The nice thing about this is that we can also look at putting some of the, like the grit paste snowfall and whatnot that I have a Ranger on these afterwards. Again, I'm thinking of this for my winter scene that I want to do, and I thought these might be ideal. They're not too big. I don't have a ruler really handy, but look at, did you see my mat? Yeah, okay. So if we start here, which is at the 10-inch point, they're about 4 inches long. Just, I'm looking, I've got a ruler right here. Look at me go. All right, so they're about 4 inches long. We'll do the base brown because, well, I want to. I'm wondering too if there might be the potential. Now they're slightly different in shape. Could you get away with it? maybe. Now, the other thing is if you did the one twice, then really, well, I'd like to say maybe if you flipped it, but you definitely, I mean, you could maybe put that together and then have it as a 3D tree. It's off, yes. So maybe making two of the one side would be more beneficial. And let's not break these as we put them down. All right, so I'll make sure I clean those up really well before I put resin in them, unless I'm going to make some more. I do like how these look. And they might actually look nicer in the ceramic resin than they would in resin. We'll have to make them, won't we? I mean, really, if we want to see how this is going to work out. Now, I'm wondering, well, we're starting to see what happens with this. I'm not fussy taking this out of here right now, but we'll be very careful. Again, stuff like this that's got, you know, the very fine top on it, like it's not too thick, you're really going to want to be careful with, because you don't want to break stuff. Not if you can help it, right? And that's the thing. So let's get that out, and then let's carefully pull it out from there. I think I did one of these a while back and ended up painting it or doing something with it, and it actually turned out pretty nicely. All right. Yeah. So, did I get all my glitter out of there? Ooh, pretty much. Oh, I'm impressed. Look at me go. So it's picked up some of the glitter. If you can see that, I don't know if that's showing off the camera or not, but we've got that. So we're going to let all these sit. I've got another piece that's sort of in the process of going, but I'll show you that once we get to decorating these. Anyway, we're going to let them sit, dry out before we do anything else, and hopefully by the time we come back, I'll have figured out what sealer I want to use on these, and it's going to be something I'm going to need to brush in so I can get into all those grooves. Once that's all done, we'll be back. See you then. Welcome back. Okay, you know how much I enjoy bringing pieces that I've worked on before into current videos. You will remember the apple that we did. Okay, I went to the local dollar store and picked up some different things to try. Of all the things I picked up, these were their pieces seemed to be the best thing to fit inside my container. I'm one of these people who I don't believe any type of resin is food safe. I wanted to find something that was in a wrapper just because I'm not going to put anything that's food related in something like this. That's me. That's how, like, I'm just not comfortable doing it. It's like putting lights in things. I'm just not comfortable doing that either. The other thing I wanted to show you, as I throw those all over the place, was, and literally throwing things all over the place. Just give me a second. Okay, was the bottom of this. I thought it would be nice to have something on the bottom. So what I did was I took UV resin, green glitter, red glitter, and then the Light Wish Starry Color Series, and I used the dark green. So I mixed that into the UV resin, and then I poured it into the bottom of this and let it set up. So I'm trying to give you an idea of the glitter on that, or the shine, or call it what you will on that. I don't know how good of a job that's doing. And then this is what it looks like through the inside, which I really like. I think it just finishes it off. I know we don't have a lot of, you know, metal, the foils and whatnot in here, which is, it's a little disappointing because I really like how the lid turned out. And maybe what I should have done was, instead of pouring the lid first, have poured the bottom part of this apple first. But, you know, live and learn. Anyway, I thought it would just be nice for you to see what I had sort of come up with for that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just put that off to the side now, just to give you some more ideas. They say that if you can show people what you can do with things, it opens their mind to what they can possibly do with things. And anyways, that's why I did that. Okay. we know we made these 3 pieces yesterday. Are they all on camera? Good. I also made this piece. Now, I didn't have enough of the Mix2Mold to do the full, so I actually used UV resin. I used Light Wish in this. I used some colored stones in this, some glitter, and I just finished it off. And now what I want to do with this is I'm going to work on sort of decorating this up a little bit to give it some more pizzazz. It needs a little bit more added to it, so I'm going to work on that. I just figured I'd show you, give you an idea of something you could do. And obviously we knew the resin would stick to the Mix2Mold versus trying to do it the other way and have it fall apart. Anyway, I thought I would show that to you. Right, now what are we going to do? We are going to use this product by DecoArt to top coat our trees and this ornament. And if I were smart, really what I should do is, if you need any sanding, I would recommend doing them first. However, I'm going to be doing this a little backwards so we can carry on with the video. The reason I want to coat these with something is I am concerned about this product just soaking right into it and not being able to play around with it. I have some wooden Christmas trees that I was trying to do some decorating on, and the products I was using were just soaking right into the wood. If you don't want that to happen, then I strongly recommend for products like this or wood products that you put some sort of sealer on them before you start playing around with them. Only because you know it's going to soak in. With a resin, it won't, because of what the resin's made of and the hardness of it later on and whatnot. This is more absorbent, if you will. We could try the brown out just to see how much it does soak in, but I don't really want to do that because I don't want it running into the bottom of the tree. Another tip when you're working with a product like this is, I have Liquitex, what I was using when I was doing a lot of my paint pourings, and they recommended that when you were working with the product that you used as a top coat is that you didn't shake it because you didn't want to be introducing air bubbles. So all you do is you just turn this container to, get things mixed up a little bit without introducing air bubbles to it. The other tip, because we are working with the Mix2Mold, I don't know if the coloring is going to come off of either one, like the green or the blue. I have 2 paintbrushes out to use. I have a cup of water that I'm going to put my brush into if I have to use a second brush because of color coming off of it. I think that's more likely to happen when you have just dropped product on the top and sort of swirled it around a little bit, more so than if it's mixed right in, but I didn't want to risk that. So let's get this done, because then obviously I'm going to have to let this sit for a little while. The other good thing about using a paintbrush like this is I want to get in as many of the grooves as possible so that when I am, again, putting the other products on, it may not matter. And again, personal preference, you do you, as far as, how coated you want to get this. And you know what? I'm going to pour some of this into a container because it's going to drive me nuts trying to reach in there. And you can always pour back into the bottle when you're done. Well, as long as you have not colored it. Don't pour this back in if you've colored it. You don't want to do that. All right, put the lid back on. And I think I may have repeated myself when I talked about putting this on here before you've covered it. Okay, so all we're going to do is get this. Now this is probably going to soak in pretty quickly itself. I wasn't planning on doing 2 coats on this. I think once should be sufficient. And I haven't decided what I want to do with the back of these yet. Yes, I had thought of making another pair to see about joining them. We talked about that previously in this video. So I probably won't do this. The idea with this video is more to, have another Christmas project that we can do. And if I, you know, want to join these together, I would have to make a set of 4, and then I have my coloring to deal with. So either I make them white, and that way I just, you know, paint, you know, all, or I take my chances and not worry if one side of the tree happens to be a little bit different in color than the other, which may not really matter at all. So this is going on really easily. I want to make sure I'm in camera for you. Granted, this green is blending really well with that background, isn't it? I wanted to say, with my last video, it was long. I really appreciate people who go, you know what? I watched the whole thing. I'm not always as patient, so for those of you who watched the whole thing, thank you. And we got some really good tips in regards to the UV resin. Again, it's not something I work a lot with. I am continuing to learn. Having someone comment is much, you know, giving tips to myself and to others. We learn from each other that way. And if you're new starting out with UV resin, then having tips is a great thing. And when it comes to that UV resin, I definitely don't have all the answers. All right. So I'm just kind of having a look to see if I've missed. And once you put this stuff on, then you do a second coat. If you decide to do a second coat, it sometimes is really hard to see where you've put the product. So again, do the best job you can. And as you do more and more, you'll get better and better at it. I've learned that. So even if you don't get things right the first time around, just keep practicing. It'll come. All right. So, and I would suggest having some baby wipes around or something that you can wipe your hands off on when you're all done this, because this stuff is sticky. And I don't know about anybody else, I can't stress this enough, very much dislike sticky hands. Can't stand them. That's one of those tell me how you really feel, Natalie. All right, so let's just put that down. We've done enough of that. Now, you're noticing there's no green in here, and there's appears to be no green, so I could do my blue one. I would just recommend being prepared just in case color comes off. But again, if you don't care and it's cool with you, then great. And I will probably let this set for a couple hours anyway. I don't know what the length of time is you're supposed to let this stuff set for. I'm sure it says on the bottle. So you can follow directions as needed. Always, actually, for a lot of things, do that, because if you want proper results. I sometimes speed things up only because I need to get these videos out to you guys. However, please follow your directions, because you want your piece to turn out as good as you can make it. And with some products, it's really important to follow their directions or you won't get the results you're looking for. And I guess that's the bonus of me doing things that aren't completely two directional, because then you see and then you don't do. Again, you do you though. So what do you think of these trees? I think they're really cool. I'm quite pleased with how nice these look. And of course, you don't have to do green trees. You can do whatever color trees you want. I can remember walking into it was a nursery. Oh, and I'm going back many, many years, and seeing a black tree and black ornaments and whatnot. And I thought, ooh, but you know, there's so many colors out there these days. And if you do it right, you can make anything look beautiful. So we've definitely come a long way in my lifetime anyways, from getting outside the world of traditional to new traditional. And I'm not really too bothered with if I get, you know, it a little thicker in some places, because I know with this coat, it's going to be soaking into this. And the other reason I'm not overly concerned that I haven't given this maybe the full 24 hours is because I'm not putting anything on the back right now. So I know that water can still evaporate out of this if it needs to. So that's another thing that you could keep in mind. So yeah, just getting around the edges there. Getting up underneath in some places. Again, if you're going to be doing a second coat of this, good chance that you're going to hit all the spots. Okay. And one thing I would recommend is wiping off your hands. So I've got green on the back of on my hands from the back of that. So, and I have made mistakes before where I haven't wiped my hands off and I've gotten colors on things I don't want them on, or wrong colors on wrong things. So I highly recommend you doing that. And this, because of the indentations on this, you may want to take just a little bit more time on a piece like this so you get it down. But again, maybe that's not something you're overly, you know, it's not a big deal to you. And if it's not a big deal, again, perfect. And I think I'm going to avoid the side for right now. Probably because I am going to want to sand this down. And I suppose if you wanted to, you could, I mean, depending on what you were doing with it, you could dip it, like put, you know, some into a container and dip it like that. You'd want to I would make really sure, if you're going to do that, that you have some place that it can sit and drain, if you will, so that you're not left with blobs. Now, you'll see my paintbrush is getting blue on this. Okay, now, part of the reason, so good point here, I used the Mix2Mold green in that. I used a Stamping Up in this. So I'm glad I did this first. So so take that in mind. What product are you mixing into your ceramic resin? So that's a really good point. Glad I noticed that. Because we've found in the past that not every product that you put in the ceramic resin is going to sort of work the same way. And I can't remember how many drops of that I put in it. Maybe 4. So keep that in mind. That should be good enough. All right. So I am going to clean up now so that we can come back then and start working to decorate these up. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to put 2 coats on, and I actually like to see what happens with just doing 1 coat. And then if it's not, like if it's soaking in too much, then we can look at doing it, the other one with a 2nd coat on it. And maybe this piece, this blue piece, isn't something I was really wanting to do in this video. So maybe what I might do is we might do it and we might not. And if I don't do it, then I will show you in another video what I ended up doing with it, just so that you can be aware of. Now, because I had some blue in this, because of that blue ornament, I'm not pouring back into the container because I don't want to contaminate my my top coat. I don't want to contaminate it. There you go. We'll be back when it's time to carry on. See you then. Are you ready to do some coloring? I've only got the 1 coat on these, as we did just before I left, to let this sit and set. We're only going to do 1. I want to see what happens with the colors, whether they soak right in and we need to put a 2nd coat on the other one, or what's going to happen with this. We have our colors, which is cool. I went and went to my other room, brought back a couple of colors. I brought forward the pearl, which is a really nice, well, it's a pearl, sort of a beigey pearl. And I also brought the white. There's a couple of colors here that are very dark, like the brown is a very intense dark color. I don't know if I want the bottom of my tree to be as dark as it is. I figured if I brought some other colors that were lighter, I could play a little bit instead of having this really strong dark color on it. The other one that's really dark is the dark green. I always find it interesting when you pick up from different manufacturers what their interpretation is of a specific color. The dark green it's a very dark green, and the emerald's not obviously as dark, but it's got some dark features to it. And then we have the green apple, which I think is a really pretty color. What we'll do is we'll start with the base, and this is something you're going to have to play with to figure out. I have specific paintbrushes that I use for this product. I have a lot of paintbrushes, but I like having something specific to use with these. I always wear my gloves because this stuff will stain your hands, and I just think it's a better idea to wear gloves when you're working with this. So some products I don't. This is one of the ones that I work with, and I've got my pink gloves on that are well used because it'll allow me to manage things better. I've got this, obviously, plastic plate because we're going to mix. So that's what the brown looks like on the inside. So as you can see, it doesn't look too dark there, but trust me, it's a dark color. See if I can get some on my stick, which isn't good from, if it were a white stick, it'd probably show it better. But we're talking a really dark brown here. Let me just up against my pink here so you can see. So maybe we should move our tree because we really don't want it to get all brown. So we'll put some on our plate. We won't need a lot, so that's why I'm just putting a little bit on the plate here. And as always, I put my lids back on everything. Don't want those liquids flying anywhere. Now, thinking. Trying to decide whether, well, maybe we do a little bit of pearl and a little bit of white, just a little bit. And make sure, and I know you would all know to do this, that you take and wipe off your stick before you stick it in another color. And hopefully I can kind of get this colored the way I want it. And it can't hurt to add a little bit of pearlesque to this. Now I noticed with this one too, I feel like I haven't mixed it enough, or it's doing something funky. I've had these, I don't know, how long have I had these for? Maybe, well, I want to say about 6 months. I don't know if I've had them longer than that. But anyway, or maybe I just got too many air bubbles in it, and that's the problem with that one. Just doesn't seem as fluid as the other one did. So we'll just mix this. We won't obviously need a lot. And maybe what we can do is tap and... Okay, I'm making a mess here. That's okay, right? As an artist, you're supposed to make a mess. All right, let's just tap in that so we can get a little bit of mixed up color, eh? Yeah, see, that's a little bit better. We can get some of that dark in it. I don't mind, but I just didn't want like an intense dark brown on this. And then this is, I cut the bristles off of this brush because I had some pieces sticking out. So all we're going to do is tap into that. And I'm trying to think of how I can do this so you can see. And then I'm just going to tap. Now that's not working really well. I might have to. So it's a bit mocha. It's not even a mocha color, I don't think. But what we could do is let's get that on there. Should get my other glasses. And we can, like we can do this and then let it sit and set up a bit. And then add some of the darker brown on it. But that's what it looks like right now. Is it soaking in? Hard to say, so it's not soaking through there. I just want to make sure I'm in camera. Always, that's the one annoyance about this camera being over here as opposed to above, but and should have left some of the brown out. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to let that dry up a bit and then maybe touch it up with some brown. So let me get that in there. Wipe this up. I have my cleaner over to the side. And what you'll want to do, especially if you're going to be working with a variety of different colors and going from maybe a dark color to a light, is just to make sure your brush gets cleaned out really well. But I'm sure you already know this. I just figure, well, share tips with people, and tips you need, you'll use, and tips you don't need, you won't use. Or you'll add to them. So I think what I am going to do, because I don't really like the color of that. I think it's too, I don't know. It's just not a color I'm popular with right now. So we'll just take that. And again, make sure your hands are clean before you start touching your piece. So let's see if we can, I think I'm going to need to let this sit. Okay. So we've got a little darker. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to let that sort of move its way up the trunk. But I'm not going to end there. We're going to put that in there. Make sure have some spare, I was going to have some spare napkins on hand for you. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to touch the bottom, just sort of patting it, right? So it's not so intense of a brown. So does that give it a little bit better of a take on it, I think. So we'll let that'll dry as we keep on working, and I'll get rid of that napkin, paper towel. So I hope this inspires you to have some fun playing with some colors. I know for me, again, you've seen some of the things I've tried mixing together that have just totally not worked out. But I hope this sort of inspires you to, consider playing with different colors just to see what you can do. So let's do a little bit of this emerald green, and hopefully, I just want to clean that out just a little bit more. All right. So here's sort of what the emerald green looks like. And that's very carefully, hands clean. And we're just going to let this soak up into the brush a little bit, and then I'm just going to tap. That's all I do. I just tap this stuff on. It sort of lands where it lands, and again, our tree doesn't have to be, perfect in coloring. And if you have some extra, like too much in some spaces, sometimes you can just kind of pick it up. So I don't think it's soaking in like it would have had we not. And the other thing you can do is dab your brush off on your paper towels too. If you've got too much and you go, ugh, I'm not sure about this, you could always dab it off on your paper towel. And that's all I'm going to do is just go up the tree and throw a little bit more on if I think it needs it. And again, it's one of those things you're just going to have to figure out how much you want, how much you don't want. I mean, some people may look at this and think, oh, you've put way too much of that on there. And fair, that's fair. But I'm just doing what fits me, and it is my tree after all. Okay, so we're going to put that down and clean that out. Not that I really probably need to, just because we're going to try a little bit of the dark green, and I'm going to do that more sparingly just because it is pretty dark. And the other thing we can do too, if we want, is we can just, damp this off, maybe a little bit. This will dry. This stuff will dry. I'm not sure how long it takes, but it will dry. Okay, so this dark green, so just to show you the difference, it almost looks a little black in there. That way maybe. So I'll put a little bit down on here so you can see what I'm talking about when I say how dark this dark green is. Okay, so it's dark. So if you're, not sure about this color, I'd be very sort of, and it may dry lighter, I'm not sure. That I'm not sure of. So instead of doing it sort of like we did the other one, we'll just sort of randomly drag it down. All right. And that's about all I'm going to put. It almost now looks like it's got some blue in it. Okay. And then the last color we're going to throw a little bit on here is going to be the translucent green apple, because it's a really pretty color. I'll get that dark off my plate. And the other thing I'll let you know about this stuff is that when you're doing something like this, or you're sort of brushing on, this stuff will splatter a little bit, but I don't think the only reason it's doing that is because it's a liquid. And then, so that's what my green apple looks like. Alrighty, let's see where we want to put some of this stuff. So we might just kind of dab this on a little bit. Sort of just I'm just randomly throwing this on. Oops. Now you definitely don't have to do, you know, have this many colors of green. I get that. You may only want one. I shouldn't have let that drop on like it did. That is a little too intense up there, but that's okay. I'm just going to bring my brush down, just kind of to pull the colors a little bit. There we go. I think that looks pretty cool. Get a little bit more of this green apple. Now I've found with the green apple with these brushes that it soaks up into the bristles. So just to make you aware, you'd notice it if you were sitting here, you would have seen it sort of pull itself up. All right, so let's just put that down. And you'll notice I have a couple of spray dots there. That's what I mean. It just kind of spritzes around sometimes, so just be aware of that. I got some on my hand. Hopefully, well, we'll have to do something magical to the back of this, and I don't know what that is right now. Oh, that looks okay. So there we have our tree. I'm going to let this dry now. I'm not going to do anything else to it at this point. I want these colors to sort of set in, and then I can decide whether or not I want to add anything else to it, whether we put a little bit of gold on it or we just leave it alone. But I just wanted to do something, you know, interesting with you, give you sort of a sense of what you could potentially do with these. And I'm sure seeing this now, you guys have got all kinds of ideas of your own on how you could do it. And you don't need to have this product particularly. I'd gotten a set there. I think there were 12 of them with different types of Pebeo products in it, which I got playing with, and then Michael's had a sale, and well, you know how all that goes and whatnot. So I'm going to go do the other one off camera. We're gonna let this one dry, and then yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll show you what I end up doing with the other one from a green brown perspective. Yeah, just another idea, another Christmas piece. So let me run off, do that, come back, and yeah, we'll see if that's the end of the video or not. Let's see what I got up to. I have been working away at the second tree. I did it differently as far as the coloring went. So this is our first tree that we worked through together. It's still sticky. It needs to sit, and it'll sit for about 24 hours before I can do anything else with it or want to do anything else with it. For the second tree, I did it slightly different, as you can tell from the coloring here. Let's just push that up, push that up. Okay, put that off to the side. So for this second one here, what I did was I used some of the green apple and the emerald on this one. Those are the only two colors well aside. And I just, on the bottom, I put some of the, I did the apple green, and then I put the brown over top of it. Instead of making up some white with the brown in. I just put some of the green apple on and then put the brown over top of it. It did tone it down a little bit, which is kind of cool. So you get two effects. Here you have the sort of two-tone. Here you just have one tone on this. For the second one, I took the green apple and I just basically washed, when I say washed, I did use my brush, but I washed it all the way down on the piece. And then I took the emerald and I just sort of dotted it around. The next thing I was trying to figure out was, I want to decorate this somewhere. How am I going to do this? Because we don't have flat space. Well, it's not flat. It's got a design to it. It's got depth to it. How am I going to do it? I had these 3 bottles of glitter stones, if you want to call them there. I'd gotten this in a garage sale, and I thought, I wasn't sure about doing that because, again, it's an uneven surface. And I also took some stickles, which is a glue, but at least it can add some glitter to these pieces. So I squeezed that out, and then I put the stones on it. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. I want to be kind of careful because they are still wet, and I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm having a hard time. Hopefully you can see those on there. I thought, well, hopefully these will stick and we won't have an issue with them falling. I had to go a little heavier with the glue than I would if it was just flat. But there is our second tree. Because I wanted to do something to it, again, I was challenged by what do I want to do, and it actually worked out better than I expected it to. So there we have our 2 different trees, colored 2 different ways. I think putting something else on here would look nice, but I haven't quite figured that out. The other piece we had was this one. What I did was I put a little bit of the sky blue on, some cobalt blue, and then I took my buttercup, which is a gold, but it's a very pretty gold. Okay, and I just dabbed that on. I want to do something on the side, so this will be one of those pieces that you see later on when it's completely done. So in another video, I'll probably show you. And I've sanded down, I sanded down the back on this, and I'll do something on here. I'm just not sure what, whether I put a tattoo on the back of it, whether I do some decoupage on it. Yeah, at this point I have no idea. And again, this piece I'll figure something out and show that to you in a later video. So that's it. Play. I've said that before. You've got to play to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. And I think for the most part, my 2 little trees turned out kind of cool. So I'm going to just leave these to set up, dry up, and get my stickles to get to the point where it's solidified so that my baubles don't fall off. I could have used something else, but I decided just to do the stickles for now. Anyway, that's it. That's all I've got for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it and that you've gotten lots of tips and tricks out of it. Thank you for joining, subscribing, and commenting. We'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye for now.